All right, West Virginia fans, typical classic West Virginia Mountaineer loss. You can't make this stuff up between this team and some of the wins and the highs that this team has had and some of the low lows that we've had. To talk about it with me tonight, I have my friend, alumni, and passionate Mountaineer fan, Grant Easterday. Grant, how are we feeling tonight?
Well, good evening, Mr. Horak. Thanks for having me on. I wish I was happier after watching the end of that game, but it is what it is. It's par for the course here.
Yeah, we already have a comment coming in from Coop. He said, "I hate being a West Virginia fan," and I think a lot of people can share that sentiment with you, Coop. It's not for the weak. It is extremely frustrating to be a West Virginia fan at times with the head scratching results that we have seen this year. And it's not just this year in basketball. It is just the last 7 years as far as the main two sports. So it is very frustrating. We have another comment from Browns and Beer. That was a rough one. Yeah, that one's tough to digest. And it's like they got you back into the game and just to have it ripped away from you with the classic stuff that we've seen this season happen at the end of the games. We have another comments. Let's go Mountaineers. Start more F Eagle staff. Yeah, a lot of people are passionate about this one. So we're going to talk about this game in detail tonight before we put you guys to bed and we move on with our lives because that one was, again, a Manhattan meltdown in the second half. Friendly reminder, if you're watching the show right now, that means you're a diehard West Virginia fan. So please remember to like and subscribe to the show. We really appreciate all the support. With that being said, let's break down this game. All right, Grant, let's talk about this to start off. Another cold shooting start for West Virginia. Your thoughts on how they started the game trying to shoot the ball?
Well, obviously it wasn't good. I thought that they did a good job actually of moving the ball around and getting some good looks, but as you know, if you watched and you were listening to the broadcast, they could not finish around the rim. They had so many opportunities to get a big lead in the first half, and they could not finish. So obviously, the offense was a struggle, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
what kept it
brutal.
short tonight.
We have other comments. Coop said, I've played in more competitive AAU games than today. They said Browns and Beer said the variable is the Honor Huff 3. If you can't hit from about 4 plus, feel good about most games. If not, we can't. Yeah, it's been a struggle, and like you said, Grant, they could not finish around the rim, and it was another cold shooting start. And as a Mountaineer fan, we've watched this team a lot this year, and it's a common theme this year is cold starts coming out of halves, which is what happened tonight. And the problem is, and this is why this has come back to bite this team recently, is on the schedule, you've had some gimme games. Some games are like, all right, it's a must win game. You cannot lose that game. If you just do what you have to do in the first half and take care of business, this team would quit. Let's talk about this team coming in with Kansas State. First off, no PJ Haggerty, who's one of the top players in the Big 12. He's an all Big 12 player. He averages 23 points per game. He's not in the lineup tonight. He's a late scratch. They fired Jerome Tang a few weeks ago. They've lost 3 games in a row. They're 2-14 in the conference this year. It was an absolutely dead crowd, Grant. I think I've seen more people at a Phillipsburg basketball game where we went to high school at. And this team, let's face it, had absolutely nothing to play for. It was a completely dead atmosphere. But you gave this team hope, and that's a dangerous thing to do. All of a sudden, you have a team that's down, and once they start throwing punches with you, they realize they look up at halftime, it's only a 3-point game, not what you had to do for West Virginia in a must-win game.
Agreed. I thought they had a huge opportunity there to stretch the lead to maybe 8 or 10 before the half. Like you said, they let Kansas State hang around, and it cost them. They let them in the game, and they ended up playing really good to start the second half and carried over how they ended the first. So
When you play these teams, man, you got to go out with an urgency and a consistency and bury them early. They're going to hang their head. Again, no, a lot of these guys, with NIL and transfer portal, a lot of these guys aren't going to be on this roster next year. Their head coach just got fired. A lot of these guys are probably already on the phone with their agents talking about where they're going to go next season. They're not worried about this Kansas State basketball team. But again, you gave them hope. And when you give a team hope, especially when you're on the road, it's a dangerous territory. And the exact same thing happened a few weeks ago when they played Utah. And that's the most frustrating thing about this is that even though Ross Hodge now has had a successful first season with 15 new players, and we're in the conversation, or we were in the conversation, they're letting an opportunity that they had to make the tournament. They controlled their destiny, in my opinion, if they just handled their business, and they let it slip away because of the same stuff we've seen over and over and over again with this team. And that's just the bottom line, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would say. Had a few more comments roll in. We said NIT, shaking my head. Me and Grant already said we do not want to watch the NIT. If that's the case, we had said everyone, WTF, y'all doing like the stream. Yeah, definitely like the stream, Coop. We definitely appreciate the that. Not a bad first season for Ross Hodge. It's not by any chance, but it's frustrating because this season could have been more if they did the little things right. This team doesn't do the little things right, and that's really what's frustrating. WVU Jonesy said Crusher. That one's going to knock them out of the tourney. Yeah, that pretty much is the death blow. They'd have to pretty much run the table in the Big 12 tournament, which is not going to happen. They have contractually have to go to the Crown, which is, I guess, Brown. That's a good point. Browns and Beers. The Crown is is basically an NIT level tournament where it's in Vegas. It's in one location, and the teams can compete for like NIL money, which would be good for the future of the program. But it's still, it's big tournament or dance for me. A couple other things, Grant. I thought West Virginia gave themselves a shot in this one with how well they played in the offensive glass early in the game.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job on the boards, and they gave themselves an opportunity to win the game by doing so. But again, you got to be able to score more than, what was it, 27 points at the half, and then you went for a 6-minute stretch in the second half of scoring no points at all. So
yeah, we're gonna get to the second half. That's where they lost the game. I mean, they gave up a 21-0 run, which without their other team's best players, just head scratching. DJ Thomas, I texted you. He's a true freshman. He did some solid things tonight. If I look up the box score, DJ Thomas finished with 12 points tonight. So DJ Thomas with 12 points. He's a guy that you have to absolutely retain if you're West Virginia. And then WVU's bench came to play. Speaking of the box score, Grant, Chance Moore had 18 points. He was one guy that consistently got to the rim tonight for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And then West Virginia took control of the paint. So at halftime, you're up by 3 and you feel good. But then after that, the second half occurred. So then let's look at the second half here. Or before we do that, let's get to some comments before we get to the second half. Nebraska won the Crown last year. This year, they're a top 10 team. Well, I'm not sure if you mean Nebraska, because Nebraska is not a top 10 team this year. They've been struggling. They lost 4 games in a row. Oh, sorry, Nebraska. Yeah, sorry. I had a brain fart. Yes, Nebraska. Yes, they're very good. Thank you, Coop. Yes, Nebraska is a solid team. Thank you. Out rebounded by KSU, less turnovers, took 13 more. Yeah, I got to look at the box score in a second after I go through this. We simply don't deserve to be in madness. No consistency as a team. Sad because we love these guys. Yeah, Big Dan T. I think the biggest thing is it's just discouraging, man, because I think the biggest thing with this is that as much as they're not deserving, they've still gotten us to this point where it's March 3rd, and this is the most exciting time of the year, and you want to be on the edge of your seat for the end of the season. And now it just seems like it's over, and we've had that feeling a few times this season where the Utah loss, you thought it was over, but then you look at Joe Lunardi's bubble and you're still somewhat in it, and you're like, okay, if you can just finish. But this team reminds me of the West Virginia athletic department in recent memory is 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Great. Doesn't it seem like the Mountaineers, whether it's football, they beat Pitt this year in football and you think things are on the right track, and then the next week you get absolutely blown out versus Kansas, or you get the transfer portal class, and then that happens with Bob Huggins, and that blows up. I just feel like with the athletic program, it's one step forward, it's like a tease, and then it's like they rip the carpet out underneath us.
Well, I mean, I think you said it perfectly, right? You had that disappointing loss against Utah at home, and then I think they responded really well. Got a big W against BYU. They got the whole fan base back and excited. And you're thinking, if we win the rest of our regular season games, we got a shot at this thing. And then to go out and lose tonight to a 2-14 in the conference Kansas State team, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
It hurts.
it truly is head scratching, and I think again, it almost spoils like a Ross Hodge first season. Like we should truthfully be celebrating this season that Ross Hodge has had. You have 15 new players. You're in the top half or close to the middle of the Big 12 standings, and he's done a solid job. Truthfully, if you look at everything, but at the same time, they've also had terrible offensive performances and have absolutely melted down at the end of the games. So let's look at the second half here. And sloppy turnovers was the biggest difference, I thought, in the second half. They were throwing the ball away like crazy in that second half. Let me look at the turnover numbers that they had. West Virginia had 13 turnovers in this one. Not good. So the sloppy turnovers, I think, was something that was not great. And then, Grant, did you notice, too, that West Virginia at times, especially early in the second half, was just not getting to those 50-50 balls that were a chance to get rebounded?
Yeah, it seemed like every loose ball was going Kansas State's way, and then yeah, obviously they were just turning the ball over left and right. Every time they came up the floor, they were making a bad decision, and it's what led Kansas to get to that 10-point, then 15-point lead, 20-point
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah, when Kansas State goes on a 21-0 run, like I don't even know what was going through my mind. I just be like, I cannot believe I have to do a show after this on on this performance. And then of course West Virginia came back like they usually do. This team has shown fight, but it's too little too late. And I think when you get down by that margin against the team, with West Virginia's roster, you have to almost play perfect. And when you get down that big, you have to pretty much play perfect. And this team has not played perfect pretty much the entire year. Harlan Obioa got in major foul trouble in this one, which I thought definitely affected the team. He took his 7-foot center off of the court. That led to offensive rebounds for Kansas State. So him having some fouls, he was just never a factor in this game. And then again, another cold start for West Virginia out of a half. That's back-to-back halves now, and been a theme of the season of this team starting off cold to start games and at a halftime.
Right, and they got away with it in the first half because they were playing good defense, and Kansas State wasn't able to score any baskets themselves. But in the second half, Kansas State was finishing, and them not being able to score cost them.
Big Dan T said it's a WV thing. One day it might come together, but I'll likely not see it in my lifetime. LOL. Dan, it's funny. I often say on the show, I look at a lot of analytics for the channel. I really put a lot of effort into this channel and look at stats and look at who's watching the channel. And the majority of my fan base is older. A lot of the fans are over 50 or in their 60s or in their 70s, and they're diehard Mountaineer fans. And people share the same sentiment. I think people are just like, and that's a dangerous spot to be in, is I think a lot of people see no light at the end of the tunnel with the West Virginia teams. And that could be because the football team hasn't been competitive in about 7 years. And the basketball team, it feels like forever ago that we were in the tournament. I do think that Ross Hodge will have this thing going in the right direction. And I do think Rich Rodriguez is a great coach. But until we see results on the field, it's just going to be my opinion. It's not going to be fact yet. So I can feel the frustration. I feel as frustrated as you do. I'm in my mid 30s, so I think it will happen in my lifetime. Hopefully, if not, it's going to be a brutal existence if they don't turn it around. McGriff sparked the Wildcats, which he was solid, and then Ross Hodge was solid in challenges. But Grant, I want to talk about the end of the game real quick, because that's where I think I'm really frustrated, is what happened at the end of the game. Because actually, hold on one second. Big Dan T sent me over something. Hit that like and comment and subscribe, guys. Ross will have some great freshmen coming in, and we will build this year. Hey, Dan, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Anytime I get those, it's greatly appreciated. Like I said, I put a lot of effort into this. So when I get things like that, it definitely makes it worthwhile to keep doing the show. So thank you so much, man. Salute to you all the way here in Jersey. I appreciate it. But back to my point, this team, there's been some common themes with this team this year, Grant. Sloppy turnovers and missed free throws and cold starts and letting bad teams stay around too much. At the end of the game, that really came to a head. How many times did West Virginia have a chance to tie it or a chance to get back into the game, but they couldn't even get a shot up? They were too busy turning the ball over.
Yeah, not to dive too late here. I hope I'm not going too far ahead, but I thought that when they got it to within 3 points there at the end of the game, that Honor Huff should have took the 3-point shot instead of driving. He ended up turning the ball over there.
Yeah, no, it's like these guys panic at the end of the games. And we saw it early on in the season too, Grant, is when they played Clemson and Ohio State, 2 games they should have won. And if they win that game, even with some of these losses, they're probably in. But for some reason, this team has panicked at the end of games and has thrown the ball away or turned it over, or there's been open looks. And I agree. Honor Huff is your leading scorer. He's been the guy that's been probably the most clutch for the Mountaineers this season. You probably wanted him to take that one up, but he didn't. And now you're looking at a 2-point loss. We have a comment. No problem, brother. We're all Mountaineers. You are one of my favorite Yankees, LOL. Anytime I get called a Yankee from Mountaineer fans, I take it as a compliment. So it's funny. Me and Grant both went to West Virginia. We graduated in 2015. So we were in the backwoods, at Blue Hole and hanging out at some of those spots and going off-roading with our buddies. And guys could tell pretty quickly that we're from New Jersey. They're like, you look like a Yankee. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from the North. And then they usually offer to give you a beer and hang out. So I appreciate that. And speaking of Yankees, if anyone's here, I'm also a diehard Mets fan. So you can call me like a Metropolitan instead. That'd be probably more appropriate because me and Grant are diehard Mets fans for sure. So that's great. So thank you. All right, Grant, let's look at this box score real quick. Let's look at the field goal percentage. West Virginia shot 39%, which is honestly not terrible for where they usually are. Only shot 26% from 3-point land. Grant, again, the issue for this team, they shot 56% from the free throw line. They missed 7 points at the free throw line. They end up losing to this game by 2. They make a few more free throws. They're leaving Manhattan with a win, even after how bad they've played.
Yeah, and they missed a couple of the front halves of 1-and-1, so they would have had even more opportunities to shoot free throws had they made the first shot. But
the only time the missing a free throw benefited them was Chance Moore made the first one on the 1-and-1, missed the second one. He gets the rebound and kicks out to Honor Huff for a 3. We got like a 4-point play. That was the only time that really paid off. It almost paid off at the end of the game. They called a foul though on the rebound. Again, look at the points off turnovers. Kansas State had 20 points off of West Virginia's turnovers. West Virginia only had 11. That's not going to cut it. Offensive rebounds, West Virginia won. Second chance points, the bench points are better. Points in the paint, West Virginia crushed them by 12. Fast break points, even assists. So again, West Virginia could have made a case to win this one, but honestly, it was just too little, too late. And again, the meltdowns at the end of the games and the panic button just happened. And like I said earlier, when you go down by a score like that, you have no room for error. So when you go down by a score of 17 points, wherever it was, there is no room for error for this basketball team. And it came back to bite them again tonight in a must-win game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that's the nail in the coffin for the Mountaineers.
Coop said, "Go Pirates." Coop, if you're a Mountaineer fan and you're struggling, I can only imagine what it's like to be a Pirates fan.
Sheesh.
It was cool. It was cool a few years ago. I think when me and Grant were in college, I think Pittsburgh had a few times where they were in the playoffs, and the city of Pittsburgh came alive for those games. But one thing I noticed about being in West Virginia was they love their Steelers and they love their hockey. For the Pittsburgh people that would come down to Morgantown, uh, anyone who's a Pittsburgh fan, they love the Steelers and they love the Penguins. The Pirates are like the secondary team.
I think.
Go ahead, Grant.
I was just gonna say, I think that the Pirates have just been unfortunately not as good as the Steelers and the Penguins, but they got Paul Skeens now, so I mean, definitely got him to be excited about.
Yeah, unless they trade him to the Mets one day, you never know.
I would
Send him
love
over to,
that.
that'd be great. Big Dan T said, I had a lot of Jersey friends when I played there. One great thing about WV, once a Mountaineer, always family. Absolutely, man. And we appreciate, if you played there, that's awesome. I did not know that you played there, Big Dan T. So that's great. What year did you play there, if you don't mind me asking? Coop said, I'm a Ravens fan. It's been a tough year. Hey, me and Grant, man, we're excited about John Harbaugh. It's probably a time for change in Baltimore after 17 years, but we'll take him here. And he said, watching my Dallas Stars right now. I'm a Rangers fan, Big Dan T. So it's been brutal with the hockey for me as well this year. But the Knicks, we have Deuce McBride. Hopefully he comes back from injury soon, and the Knicks can make a playoff run in the playoffs. Oh, Big Dan T, you were there in 03 and 05. Wow, I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
That's Pat White or before Pat?
Right before. He just missed Ovid Goldborn, too, from Easton, PA. But 03, 05, those are some great years, like Rasheed Marshall, Pac-Man Jones, and players like that. So, right at the start of the Rich Rod era when they really started getting this thing going. So, those were the glory days of West Virginia. Me and Grant just missed them. We were there for the good days when we had Tavon and Gino and Stedman, but we weren't there for that. Coop said, "Go Warriors." Yeah. Grant, any last comments tonight before we get off of here?
Not a whole lot to say. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's try to right the ship here and get this thing turned around.
He said Pat McAfee came in before I left. Yeah, Pat McAfee was in between us, Big Dan T. I didn't play there. I covered the team for a little bit. I was a beat reporter for U92 on the radio station my junior and senior year there. So I got to go to like Dana Holgerson press conferences and things like that. So McAfee was just before us. Me and Grant just missed out. The year before me and Grant got there, they were like in the Final Four with Deshaun Butler. They were winning BCS bowl games. I saw the Orange Bowl. That was my freshman season, but I would have loved to be there when Pat White was there. And me and Grant often say, being Jersey boys, that if it wasn't for Pat White and some of those guys, who knows if we ever went to West Virginia. That was a very attractive school when we were looking to go there. And Big Dan T said, thanks again for doing the show. Keep kicking ass. I will, Big Dan T. Thank you again. I thank you for the super chat, and thank you to a lot of the people that comment on the shows. I really appreciate it. We have a lot of you guys I notice are the same people that comment all the time. So we have one of the things I'm most proud about the show is we have a great audience here that is loyal and always comes back and backs me. So thank you so much. Koo's Corner, the GOAT, the GOAT of Mountaineer content, said that was fun with his hand over his face. Koo's, I've been watching your stuff a lot, man. I really like your show, obviously. Looking forward to see your reaction. I'm sure it's probably going to come out tomorrow. So to see you digest, you're passionate. You have great takes. So looking forward to watching your show tomorrow. That should be fun. As we digest this just absolute meltdown of a loss. Yeah, Kuz is the GOAT, man. Big DNT, shout out to Kuz for sure. All right, that's all I got. I'm going to go cry myself to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. I'll just try to talk about this one. A few other things that are coming up this week. The West Virginia baseball team plays Marshall tomorrow. We'll talk about, what happened today. Chase Myers off the team. Big 12 pitcher of the year preseason wise off of the team in Morgantown. Rich Rodriguez spoke to the media today. Spring ball's coming out. The Big 12 wrestling tournament is this weekend. So I'm going to preview the Big 12 wrestling tournament and some of the guys in the brackets for West Virginia. So there is a lot going on for Mountaineer sports. Kuz said, I doubt I'll do one. This team is wearing me out. Hey, Kuz, there's always spring ball. It's just dissect the Rich Rodriguez press conference and what he said today.
I was just going to say, I'm ready for football season, man.
Kuz said at least Chase Meyer does not have to travel to Marshall. Yeah, a lot of things came out today about that I haven't had a chance to react to. I don't think it's a good look for the baseball team that happened today. It almost reminds me of like Sheboy. like leaving the team. You know, it's concerning to see that. I haven't had a chance to talk about that on the air yet, because there's a basketball game today. So I eventually will talk about that, but it is concerning for the future of the baseball team, in my opinion, seeing a guy that talented walk out the door. He's someone that had pro talent, and now he's not on the team. Is definitely going to be there. Big Dan T said hockey team's killing it. Yeah, Big Dan T, the hockey team, speaking of them, it's too bad that they're not like an official like NCAA team. They're like a club hockey team the last time I checked. And I would absolutely love if West Virginia was ever a major hockey, like it was a real sport at West Virginia. I would be all in to cover that because I absolutely love hockey. It was really cool. A few years ago, I went to the outdoor game at MetLife Stadium. I saw the Islanders play the Rangers in front of like 80,000 people, and that was sick. And then I watched the Penn State game a few days ago when they played Michigan State outdoors, and that was so sick. I'm like, man, could you ever imagine like an outdoor hockey game at Morgantown at Mile and Post Square Stadium? The tailgate would be sick. So I think that's a great point. Like I said, I wish they were more legitimate as far as NCAA goes and an official sport, because I think a lot of fans would wrap their arms around that. And he said, yeah, I would love that too. Would buy season tickets. Yeah,
We need
maybe.
a rink.
Yeah, yeah,
We need
maybe
a we need a rink.
Yeah, I think the other problem too is that if you had a hockey team with Title IX, you'd probably have to add a women's team as well, or add another women's sport. And I think if you look at the state of college athletics, a lot of athletic departments are losing money. If you look at Rutgers lost like $500 million since joining the Big Ten, which is just unfathomable that they could lose that much money. So I think if anything, you're going to see more teams cutting sports than adding sports, unfortunately, because of revenue sharing and trying to keep up with NIL. It's a scary time for the Olympic sports. So that's probably wishful thinking. I wish it would happen, but the chances of like West Virginia adding a softball team or a official hockey team or a lacrosse team is probably just not going to happen unless things drastically change with college sports. And Dan T said exactly, some things just stupid. Yeah, absolutely. Two things I wish West Virginia had is lacrosse and hockey. I think they'd be awesome sports, but unfortunately, just not in the cards for athletic department. Luckily though, they do have wrestling, which is where I excelled, and that's why I love doing the wrestling videos. So again, I'm putting some out soon. All right. Anyway, we're nearing 11:15. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Jersey Ear Show. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Jersey Ear Show.